never talk to them boys that sat on them benches. I never talk to them boys that sat on them benches. I was in the game on 4th and inches.
Now it's time to go to work.
Go to work. Oh, wait. Okay, we go. Let's go to work. Florida State family, Seminole Nation, in the 863 tribe. We're going to keep the music playing like last time because I kind of like the vibe of the music in the background, right? So that's what we're going to continue to do. What is going on? It is Noles After Dark, 9 o'clock at night on the Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern. And if you are not on Central or Eastern Time, well, it's still early for y'all. But what is going on, everybody, man? Big recruiting weekend coming up. Well, not coming up. It's here. It's here. We are in the last recruiting weekend before the dead period. We are this has been a strategy for Mike Norvell since he's been at Florida State. They let the last weekend in June wrap it up before the dead period begins in July. And they got some guys, man. They got some guys on campus. We're gonna go over the list of who is in Tallahassee this weekend. Also, we should have a visitor tonight. He hasn't been on here in a while, so we should have. I'll let him pop up before I'll spoil it, but he hasn't been on here in a while, so it's gonna be good to talk some football with him again. And plus we'll have some recruiting insight, I'm sure. So yeah, man, we're gonna go over all of that and more on tonight. But there he is. He just hopped in here. So let's get my man in here again. It's been a while since we've talked. It's not Terrence. Y'all see Terrence all the time. We're gonna get my man in here. It's not T2I either. That man, they doing other stuff in Miami. Don't nobody care about Miami right now. Let's go ahead and get my boy in here. Oh, you're small. There we go. Norvell, what's going on with you, man? It's been a while. Yeah, how you been?
Good. How about yourself?
Man, I can't complain. Living life, living the dream, as they say.
I feel
How's
that,
everything
man.
On your end?
Good, man. Going to Tallahassee tomorrow. Gonna check out some stuff. So we'll see how it goes, man.
Well, we'll get into that in a minute. Right. Wait a minute. Before that, again, y'all hit that like button, man. Subscribe if you're new, and then share the video. Let everybody know we are live here on a Friday night. So let's not waste the people's time. What do you have? What do you know, or what can you share as far as this recruiting weekend, the big names, and then who are we expecting? Like, I don't want you to ruin anybody's moment if you have any insight, but who should we be paying attention to that might pop here in the upcoming weeks?
You got guys like Luke Cromanhawk, 4-star quarterback, very, very talented, performed really well at the Elite 11. He's going to be out there recruiting at a high level. Landon Thomas, same thing. You got a guy like Kylan Fox, tight end out of Grayson High School in Georgia, a guy that Florida State really likes a lot. UCF thought they had an upper advantage there early in the recruitment. UCF fans are a little bit more optimistic until it's a little bit too late. Fox is a guy that is built on relationships. His mom is a huge factor in that recruitment. Norvell's done a really good job. You talked about it in a previous video, I remember, with Charles Lester. It's a situation where he recruits the moms. It's a pretty good saying, but when you recruit the families as well as you do, Norvell's always about relationships as it is, something that really stands out with some of those guys. And I think Kylan Fox is kind of at the top of that list in terms of the guys that could possibly be committing this weekend.
Can I cut you off real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because this is very interesting, I think, this recruiting cycle. the moms seem to be so involved in recruiting cycle this year.
Yes.
I mean, Cam Davis's mom is always tweeting about her what's she call him? Norvy?
Yeah, Norvy.
Or
Yeah.
something like that. She's always his mom, huge. Fox's mom is always on social media. Luke Cromwell, I think it's his dad.
Yeah, John.
Constantly talking about, you know, his son in Florida State. The parents have been like, I think parents are more active on social media than the actual recruits this cycle, it seems like. So that's actually an interesting point that you make. But continue. What else?
Yeah, and I also will add to Cam Davis as well. We talked a little bit last week. He thought he might be coming in for an official this week. It didn't really turn out that way, so I think he might be saving it for another trip to kind of lure some other guys in. But I think he may be saving that for another trip coming down. But Mekhi Danzy from Tallahassee, with Florida High kids, you know, we've had some bad luck here and there, but I think we sit in a pretty good spot with that. They love to pair him and Cam Davis together. I think that's a really good get.
I feel they feel confident on that one.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it for a while. I don't know what it is, but we need to get – I don't know why we can't keep Tallahassee kids home, so I don't understand it. But
it bothers me a little bit. I won't lie to you. That was a little bit more concerning. Him and also Alonzo Hampton that's actually going to be visiting in December. That's going to be another guy Florida State's going to keep their eyes on at the safety position. We all know safety position is kind of that top-tier position in terms of just production, you know, lack of depth of the position so far this season. Surtain's got to do a really good job in terms of closing out in the recruiting cycle. It didn't really start off great because they got Ricardo Jones that's not going to be visiting this upcoming weekend. All signs kind of point towards him committing to Clemson. It's not really a good sign for Florida State there, but hopefully we're able to get some more defensive backs, expand the board a little bit more, and kind of go from there.
So let's talk about that for a second. I want to bring this list up, and you tell me how accurate this list is. This is all the visits that I'm tracking. I don't know if you can y'all see that? Okay, y'all can see that at the top. So, of course, I know Landon Thomas is in there. Not only is Jonathan Daniels there, he just did a video shoot in like all white. So, hey, we know what that means. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because people were talking about his recruitment being shut down. Yeah. So Newberg, we all should know who Newberg is. He recently dropped the crystal ball. And then everybody was like, man, that's wrong. He shut down after Georgia visit, apparently. And then he announced he's visiting. And now not only is he visiting, he's on campus right now. And he just did a video shooting all whites. Now, the history of all whites should be some pretty good news, but we'll see. We'll see how long that goes. Yeah. You just touched on Ricardo. Yeah, I think I actually talked about him last week on this exact show. Everybody was like, we going to get Ricardo? I said, no.
Florida State did a really good job in that recruitment.
No, they put a lot of effort in him.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just don't get the guys. Sometimes you just don't get guys.
I don't know. I mean, I think that Ricardo Jones, with that situation, they want to keep him warm because this could be a situation where they can still open up the doors later on.
Well, that's what I've been telling people.
Yeah.
We stop, it's June. I am not going to panic in June because even some of these guys, I mean, we talk about some of the guys who are on this list that we know won't be here. So Zamandela, right? There's one that I know they put a lot of resources into Zamandela, right? But he recently committed to USC. Dylan Stevenson, Stanford.
Yeah.
We just touched on Ricardo Jones. Who else am I missing? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Manise. That's another one that I thought they felt pretty good on. It's June. Some of these recruitments aren't done.
Yeah, I spoke to a source about Zandamela and also a TT as well. And those two recruitments, I was actually kind of surprised they trended towards USC because Derek Ray was really involved with a TT as well. And then you also got Zandamela, who I thought with, Lucas Simmons, Coach Atkins. I didn't really think NIL was a huge factor in that recruitment, but it turns out it kind of was. Not making excuses. Now, it definitely was a whiff by Florida State in terms of what they wanted. And, just him going across country to go to USC and commit there, that was kind of a whiff there. But hopefully they're able to kind of rebound, in terms of getting some interior offensive linemen, because we definitely need it, because Smith is probably the only guy that's viable to snap the ball. Otherwise, Sapp's okay. He's still got to get work, but
what are you hearing on because one of the most interesting prospects this cycle, and one of the most debated ones, and I got to watch some more on him before I give a grade. But what is your take on Daniels? Because some sites have him as a 3-star. On 3 has this guy as a 5-star.
Yeah.
Offensive tackle, but he has the build of a interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
I saw him standing next to Norvell today. So he's a big kid. I don't know how tall Norvell is. How tall is Norvell?
Not very tall.
Okay, so
yeah.
I won't take much from that. So, but it seems like the opinion on him is so varied. I've never seen a prospect that I can think of that on one side he's a freaking the top guy at his position, and on other sides he's just another run-of-the-mill type prospect.
Yeah.
Are they recruiting him as a tackle, as an interior? Where do they like him at? And what are they basically pitching him in recruiting, if you know?
Yeah, so offensive tackles this cycle have not been good at all. There's not a whole lot of talent.
They're not good. They're not really good countrywide. So
no, it's a pretty weak class in terms of offensive tackles. They like him at offensive tackle, but they more project him as an interior offensive lineman. They can play him at right tackle if needed, but it's not a necessary take there. They kind of want to have him at offensive tackle and interior, so just kind of have him at both, see what he fits best at this point. I think he's more of an offensive tackle at the right tackle position, but I see what you're saying about the interior offensive lineman build as well. I think he suits better for that. Pensacola kid, you should be able to wrap that recruitment up pretty quickly.
What makes him so intriguing is he's not tall. At least when you start talking about tackle. I mean, I think he's 6'3" or 6'3" and 6'4" is 6'3" is he's in that area. But he does have extremely long arms for his height, which I think intrigues him. So what do you think on 3? What does on 3 see in him? Like, why do you think on 3 is so high on him? And these other websites are not really.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's weird because, the wingspan is really good for him, but also on top of that, his pass protection definitely needs work. His technique needs a little bit of work as well. But you can see the potential. I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a 5-star. I think he's more of a mid-tier 4-star, low-tier 4-star. I think that's right where he needs to be.
Wow. Okay. I love it. Let's go. What else on this list? Any insight on? We talked about Zemandela a little bit. What about Stevenson? Any insight on that one? And what happened there? Because they were feeling really good about that one too.
Yeah, he views academics really well, and I'm also not going to pull the academics card where I'm saying he just chooses Stanford to go to academics. Right. It was also pretty much a whiff of Florida State really expecting him to figure out what he wants and what he prioritizes. They didn't really realize that he prioritized academics and more of that side more than everything. Defensive line recruiting is really, really, really scary.
Don't get me started on it.
Yeah.
Everybody already knows. Don't get me started on it.
They're okay. I think they have a decent shot in Diddy Holmes.
So, I think there are some names that's in Tallahassee right now that actually aren't on this list on the defensive line.
Yeah.
Is he not? Is it this weekend, Diddy Holmes, or wasn't he just recently on campus? Right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's been visiting quite some time, but this is his official visit this weekend. He actually wore the black jerseys. It was not a white. And the thing is, he actually reached out to me last night. He doesn't talk very often, so that's kind of the weird part about it. But he definitely enjoyed last night when he was coming into the hotel room, saw the FSU stuff, felt like he was a priority at some points. Buchis recruits that area very well, and Odell does also the DMV area, but overall, I think that
Odell used to be great in the DMV area. I'm not sure what happened. But he used to really have a stronghold in the DMV area. Isn't there another defensive end on visiting? Holmes is another one, but I feel like there's one that I saw. I just can't remember his name. Well,
I know Johnson was supposed to be on campus, but he kind
of Johnson.
Because he's a Florida commit.
I don't think
they did not want him on campus.
Right. I think there was another one. I just can't remember. Maybe I'm mistaken. What about, we talked about Mekhi Danzy, obviously, and Fox. We just mentioned Johnson. James Madison. This is a wide receiver that a lot of people are really high on with the potential. So Abrams is actually on campus this weekend, which is a guy that a lot of people expected maybe was going to flip to Florida. But, I mean, he's showing Florida State love. He's here. That might still happen, by the way. What about Madison? How are we feeling?
I feel pretty decent about his recruitment. I think Florida State's in a really good position. The question is he a take? Because
I was just going to ask you that.
Very high on Trader. I think Florida State leads for Trader. If you want my honest opinion and what I've been told in that recruitment, I definitely think they lead for Trader right now. Wouldn't buy the Miami smoke and the crystal ball. A lot of times when that crystal ball came out, I was kind of telling people, kind of watch what's happening.
That crystal ball came out super early. That crystal that came out in like springtime, around that time, didn't it? I think it might be even before that. It might be like January that crystal ball came out. There's another wide receiver. He's not on this list, out of Alabama. I forget his name. I think Florida State feels pretty good about him. What's your take on that one?
Not great right now.
Okay.
Are you talking about Reagan's?
I know he's out of Alabama. He's one of the top wide receivers in the country. I know Florida State, he just made like Florida State's top 7 or 8 or something like that.
I like also Elijah Moore as well from Maryland. I think he's going to be somebody that Florida State kind of leans to. He's a 6'4" receiver, kind of built like they want him to be, because when you look at the rest of the receivers in Florida State's recruiting right now, there's nobody over 6 foot.
Cam Coleman, is that the person I'm talking about?
Yes, from Phoenix City. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He came in. He hasn't officially visited yet, so that's the situation. Unofficially visited, I believe it was a week ago. He came in for a camp, for elite camp.
Okay.
But he is going to be visiting during the Miami week.
Well, that's a great time to visit. Yeah. Our home schedule isn't great this year, so I feel like that Miami weekend is going to be massive. Because outside of Miami, what's the best home game?
That's it.
Yeah, that's
unless Duke is, unless they go undefeated.
Yeah, unless somehow Duke pulls the upset week 1 against Clemson and they're a really good team. Absolutely, right? It's going to be that Miami game is going to be massive. What can you tell us on? So I know Camden Fryer is in Tallahassee this weekend. Saw some pictures of him on campus. Legacy kid, I don't think there's no worry there.
No.
Yeah. What can you tell us about some of these DB recruiting is worrying people. I don't see the worry because I think they have a vast board. I know we're not getting the commits people want, but the board is huge for DBs. I think we're going to get a very, very good class at DB. What can you tell us about some of the guys that's on campus this weekend, though?
Yeah, J. Lewis Solomon from Georgia. He is a kid they really, really like. I think he's going to be cornerback number 2 in this class with that because, man, that kid's special. Like, he's got that 6'1", 190 type of frame that you really love, lengthy cornerback, can do a lot of the things that you like. If you can get Lester as your cornerback number 1, turn around and have Solomon as your quarterback number 2, and then maybe like a Knight as your cornerback number 3, and then Levy at 4, you got something. Because then you're replacing Jones and Green at cornerback, and then some of those guys can have a little bit of versatility to play cornerback and safety. And
I think that's exactly what they're targeting. I don't think they're targeting I know you got KJ Bolden out there, and I said the more he continues to visit Florida State, hey, as long as he's visiting campus, I don't think you should count us out, right? But I love the DB board because it's versatile, right? You don't have to recruit strictly safeties. You can recruit these guys to play a vast majority of positions. Speaking of vast majority of positions, though, what is there any real smoke on Hurd potentially being a linebacker? And there's also talks that maybe Hurd doesn't stick in this class. What's your thoughts on that?
I can't say too much because I have spoken to him quite a bit with that recruitment, but I will say that he's fine. He's solid right now. There are some teams out there that are recruiting him, and he's very solid in Florida State. His whole family is basically Florida State fans at that point. Norvell likes what Hurd brings to the table as well as Sartain. So I don't think there's much worry with that. But I am intrigued to see what the linebacker discussion is all about with that. He hasn't told me directly much about that, and I'm just kind of concerned to see what that is, or if he plays any during his senior season. I mean, Florida State definitely needs to bring some recruiting. What are kind of your thoughts on, like, well, I mean, I kind of know everybody's thoughts on the linebacker board in total, but do you like Parrish? Do you think he's going to be that type of guy that brings the next level?
So I don't have a problem with Parrish. My issue has not. So when I talk about this, I try not to make it like I don't like the kid, right?
Yeah.
People want to take it as like I'm bashing. I'm not bashing the kid. My problem has always been every person's not, even every 5-star is not going to pan out.
Yeah.
So when you keep telling me all these guys are gems, it devalues the whole term of gem. The whole purpose of saying a guy's a gem is because you've discovered something that no one else has discovered. But if everybody's a 3-star, who's really the gem here? I mean, I guess the numbers say, oh, some of these 3-stars aren't going to pan out, right? Yeah. I guess that's my issue. So, right, you got DeMarco Ward, you got what's the other kid out of Texas? I forget his name that quick.
You talking about Dylan Brown Turner?
Dylan Brown Turner. And now you got Parrish. All these guys kind of cut from the same mold, same cloth. So one or two of them is not going to be what people think. Is it possible that all 3 pan out? Sure. I just want to see us get back to the kind of linebacker recruiting we kind of were used to. But that's not a knock on Parrish. Parrish, like I always say, these kids have a chance to get on the field and shut me up. And I'll eat my crow if I'm wrong on somebody, right? So we'll just see. We'll just see how it pans out. I just would like to see us be in the mix for some more, top tier guys.
I don't know. It kind of hurts with Troy Bowles, with Todd Bowles' son. It kind of hurt losing out on that recruitment there for a while, and then there was some other guys too that just fell by the wayside, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So the last guy on this list I really want to point out. This guy might be the most underrated guy on this list. This Ty Hilton kid.
Yes.
This dude's a man-child.
Yeah.
3-star offensive lineman, but I'm looking at pictures of this guy, and I'm like, this guy looks like now I haven't seen him play. I'm gonna have to check out his tape. But he talk about a frame, talking about I'm like, wow, okay. I see what Alex Atkins sees in him for sure. What you got also on what you got on Ty Hilton?
Yeah, we actually talked yesterday as well. He's one of those guys that Atkins kind of taking a slow approach with, because you got a TT that's, off the board now at this point. Daniel's your top target. You're trying to find another guy to come in. You got a guy like Bless Harris and some other guys too that are coming out of the program after this season. You want to find some more guys to kind of replenish that depth of the position. Hilton's one of those guys that I think they're going to take a slow approach on, maybe get him on another visit in season, kind of see how he progresses through his senior season and kind of go from there. I don't quite know if he's the take just yet, and I'm not saying that he's a bad player at all, because Florida, Miami, Penn State, Florida State are all going after him. He's all took official visits there. But I just wonder.
I can see the intrigue in them. I can see why teams are intrigued in them.
I don't know. That's kind of the thing I've been kind of looking at is, is he really a take right now? And I'm pressed to say that he is. And I think that Florida State may just kind of wait a little bit longer on that one.
All right, William. Appreciate the $4 donation. He says, Dugans, bring home Abrams and McCoy. But we'll get Norvell Central's thoughts on that real quick. But of course, let's hit you with the thank you, man. Appreciate the donation, William.
The money goes into my piggy bank.
What'd you think about that? What do you think about what William's talking about here?
Abrams, still a little bit worried about Florida. Always been worried about Florida ever since he committed. McCoy, everybody's saying about this Miami smoke just because he's from South Florida. He's down in that area. I'm just saying it. I wouldn't be too concerned about Miami at this time unless they have a great overachieving season. I get that he hasn't officially visited Florida State yet, but, there's always time to do that later.
So for me, Miami is the team that I look at and I go, well, actually both are rivals. But the only reason I say Miami, I think Florida will be a worse team than Miami. My thing with Miami is offensively, I don't know if they're too much better than Florida. I got to see what TVD. My problem with Miami is their quarterback situation. Because once you get past TVD, it's bottom of the barrel. Yeah. And their quarterback recruitment hasn't necessarily. I mean, Emory Williams or whatever his name is, the guy they got last. Maybe he can be good. Then you got Air Judd. I don't know, and Ja'Cory Brown didn't really show anybody much. I think if I'm a receiver, I'm waiting on Miami. I want to see what that offense looks like because they're not necessarily intriguing me with the quarterback situation there. So I don't know about McCoy as of yet.
I do like Shannon Dawson, the offense coordinator at Miami. I think that was a really good hire for them because, they had their offensive coordinator, coach of the year, finally.
Yeah, that guy.
You saw how that turned out. That was smoke. Yeah. What do you think about, so with Miami kind of, Florida's the talk of the discussion with recruiting. Miami's kind of at the forefront with all these 3 stars and, they're not really doing that well. Do you still think Miami's going to be competitive in terms of getting a top 10 class this year?
Mario Cristobal's history says yes. The same way Florida reminds me of us in 2021.
I agree.
This time in 2021, we had Travis Hunter, we had Sam McCall, we were top 10. We were bee's knees, as they say. And then games got played. We went 5-7. Florida's going to go 5-7 or 6-6 at best. Yeah. They're not going to be a good football team. Mm-hmm. Florida reminds me of us in 2021. Cristobal's history says he'll be all right. He'll be all right. And I do think with Miami's schedule, if Miami isn't an 8-win team, it's time to really start questioning Cristobal because they don't have a hard schedule. It's us, it's A&M. I think they do play Clemson, right? So It's a 3-game schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 if you count North Carolina, because North Carolina does have their number. So again, at worst, you should be an 8-4 football team.
I still think they're a 7-5 football team this year.
And with Miami's track record, they'll blow a game that they shouldn't blow. So I'm with you there, right? Yeah. But yeah, Cristobal's history says he'll be fine. It's Billy that I'd be a little bit interested in that Florida. And when the games start getting played, and that offense looks as inept as I think it's gonna look, I think you could see exit galore over there in Hogtown.
Yeah. Don't quote me on this, but I don't think Florida's had a top 10 recruiting class since 2020. I think I might be wrong on that, but
that's one of the things they hated about Mullen, so you might be right.
Because I'm pretty sure that they have not had a top 10 recruiting class since 2020. So, I mean, this isn't a Florida program that's recruited very well the last couple of years anyway. You got South Florida down there. You got location. You got things going in your right direction. You got a head coach that recruits at an exceptional level. Can he win ball games? That's the problem.
We didn't talk about South Florida. Talk about Miami. I appreciate you, Chris, with the $10 dono. So what guys, Orlando on the check-in. Orlando always on the check-in every show, man. Appreciate you, Chris. I got one for you, Chris. There we go.
Bitch, be humble. Bitch, sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
Jamie made his way to campus today too. So, speaking of Jamie, is there anybody else that's going to be on campus this weekend that we forgot about that we didn't have to talk about?
I think we mentioned a lot. I mean, for the most part, I mean, everybody we listed is about there. With the Zion kid, Zion Reagan's from Georgia, kind of a speedster. They added him late to the list. I don't really know if Florida State's really super involved with that recruitment unless something just kind of happens at the end. But I know he visited, if I remember correctly, Georgia and somebody else as well. But I just think he's probably going to wait a little bit, kind of see where the chips fall with some of those guys and kind of go from there.
What's your thoughts on Lester? I think it's interesting that he visited Florida State and then announced a decision date and didn't go to Georgia. I think he did end up going to Michigan State right?
Yeah.
That was was that an official or unofficial?
It was an unofficial.
It was an unofficial. So I thought it was an unofficial. I think Florida State fans probably feeling pretty good about that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had that look. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't say too much.
Yeah, I just think that this is a recruitment that Florida State's been in for quite some time. They're very good. Relationship's very good. I understand people are going to be worried about Colorado and the whole situation with Dion and getting Travis Hunter and Kamani McLean. You know, you got guys out there that
they do. I got some guys,
of course. But he's a great recruiter. No worries there. And I'm never going to say that somebody is a lock. We've seen that too many times, and we're not going down that train again. Please, no game day. If you're listening, please do not make a joke across West.
Right? Don't enter. Yeah, please don't. Let's not do that. Shout out to Logan and the boys.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that we sit in a really good spot for him. I was not worried about Georgia, even if he visited Georgia, but Colorado would be my main culprit there in terms of just recruitment.
Okay. Oh, I got one more dono. Let's get to Jeff with the $10. No message, but just giving the money. Hey, Jeff, I appreciate you as always, Jeff. Jeff donates so much. He's got his own little video here.
Name Jeff.
So I got a question for you. Since we talked about receivers, we have 4 receivers. If we take Madison, and let's just say we take Trader, do you see 6 wide receivers in this class?
And that has nothing to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
That's simply numbers, and guys are going to say, So right now we already got Abrams, and everybody feels like Florida is really working to flip that, and that's probably going to happen. And then even McCoy, what happens is when you get these big classes, especially with a receiver class, you're just going to have guys that naturally fall off because they like Wade. I mean, Trader is one of the big boys out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Madison falls a little bit more in line with the other guys, but I just think it's going to be natural for guys to look elsewhere. I mean, and that's not a knock on the staff. That's not a knock on recruiting. Just, yes, sir. That's just what guys do.
I'm a little bit worried about, Florida State's, well, I guess you could say with Trader, Jeremiah Smith. Miami's really, really involved. I've talked to somebody that was really close with that recruitment. Miami's kind of went all in on Jeremiah Smith. With Jeremiah Smith's history on Twitter saying he'll never go back to Miami, that whole situation.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I just think Miami's turned a sail with that. They've kind of got back into the recruitment. That's part of the reason also why we are in a very good position with Trader, just because I think some of the targets are kind of going towards other ways. Miami's extending their resources to other people as well, and I think Florida State could really set up to have a really nice class. I mean,
I expect us to have a top 10 class.
Yeah,
top 15 for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm not worried about. I love the receiver board, right? So I'm not worried about receiver, even with a couple decommitments. I love I think BJ Gibson is a steal. I think he's really smooth athlete. I like him a lot. I think overall, I'm not worried about this class at all. Are there some hot spots that I'm like, but they're the hot spots that I've been complaining about for a couple years, and that's that D tackle. And I don't know. I don't know if you got anything for us on D tackle, but
no, there's not a whole lot there, and it's hard to say because DeAndre Robinson, the kid from Orlando at one point, it was a guy that Odell really liked, and they kind of slipped away in that recruitment. I've said that a lot, slipping away, because defensive recruiting has really slipped away with some of these guys that probably should have been some easier targets to grab. And kind of scary. Like Boganowski, the kid from the 4-star linebacker.
Yeah. They just had him on campus this past week, right?
Yeah, and it was for an unofficial visit. He actually switched up, and I think he's going to be coming back later in the season to
I hope
get
so.
there. But he is committing pretty soon, if I remember correctly, or making a decision in the summer. So that always scares you. Kansas kid, Kansas State, maybe. I think Oklahoma was the other team that was involved in that recruitment.
Yeah.
He liked it, but
If Venables is involved, that'd probably be my worry there with Venables. I guess this class, like, we're going to talk a lot of big recruiting tonight, but like, this class is in the position, this obviously has a chance to be Mike Norvell's best class at Florida State, or best class of his career. I don't think anybody's worried about. So in recent years, right, we've been talking about, on the field. I think nobody's worried about on the field this year. We expect, like I'm on the record of saying 9 wins is the floor for this team. Like 9 wins is the floor. That would mean you lost probably Clemson and LSU and you slipped up somewhere else. And even with 9 wins, there's a chance you still play Clemson in the ACC championship game. So what is it? What is the next step in recruiting? Is it a staff thing? Is it just some people don't like the strategy of kind of selling out this last weekend of June? I've heard some FSU fans not really, even though it's worked out for Florida State or Mike Norvell the past couple of years, they kind of feel like Ricardo Jones. They feel like maybe if they had some other official visits earlier, we're not in that position with Ricardo Jones. Do you think? I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, what is the next step for Mike Norvell on the recruiting side of things?
Yeah, and I'm not one to bash any staff member or anything like that because when you look at it, I mean, the defensive staff, let's just say John Papuchis, for example, very good hands-on coach, but he has slipped in terms of getting some of these defensive line commits to stick with the program. Keldrick Falk, for example. Everybody says, oh, well, he's from Highland Home. That's why he went to Auburn. Highland Home is an hour and a half from Auburn. How far it is from Tallahassee? 3 hours. It's not that much of a difference. You can keep saying keeping it at home and stuff like that, but no. You missed. Marvin Jones Jr., of course, with you not performing on the field, didn't get it there. Nigel Kelly going to Miami. That was another one you missed. I mean, you can keep going, and the transfer portal is something that Florida State does really well, but it's also a Band-Aid in terms of defensive end recruiting at that point. You lost Eric McClendon, turn around, you get Gilbert Edmond, but you don't really have much depth at the position other than a Byron Turner who has not played because of injury. So when you look at guys like that, are you sacrificing hands-on coaching, making people a better player once they get to college? Or are you getting more of an above-average recruiter, which I don't think he is. I think he's an average recruiter, but a very good hands-on coach. I think that's kind of the sacrifice you're having to make as a staff is what do you value more?
So here's the thing with that. I don't disagree with anything you said. But here's where I kind of – if he is the hands-on recruiter you say, then Dante Anderson or Byron Turner has to produce this year. Because that's what you're keeping. Because that's what you have him on staff. If he's not going to get me Keldrick Falk, if he's not going to get me Ruben Bain, if he's not going to get me Nigel E. Kelly, then you're supposed to get the most out of Byron Turner and Dante Anderson. Like these guys should be fixtures in the rotation and be pretty good players because that's what you're here for.
Yep.
And that's the one thing I give Odell credit for. He don't recruit at the clip like he used to, but he damn sure develops the position. Right. I don't know what we're gonna get at Gilbert Edmond. I didn't like what I saw in the spring. I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't engaged. The motor didn't look very good to me. I did like what I saw to Dante Anderson and Byron Turner in the spring game. Now it's the spring game, so I think JP can save his job, so to speak. Not saying his job's on the line, but I think he can calm some of the talk down if all of a sudden one of those two defensive ends that we just mentioned has a Pat Payton type year. He can definitely do something about that. So,
yeah, Jared Verse and Pat Payton are going to be playing a ton of snaps this season. Like, I don't want to see, and this is not a shot at Lamont Green Jr. because I think he
I get where you're going. We shouldn't see him.
We should not see him if over the 4-game limit.
What about Jaden Jones?
Okay, but he's suffered that knee injury.
I know.
I don't think he's quite ready just yet. Okay. He's a redshirt sophomore this year. Maybe his redshirt junior year, he might get a little bit more burned with, may play the 4-game limit and then kind of go on. But He used to play at Montgomery. I used to watch him a little bit when he was in high school, so kind of cool to kind of see it go
Full
back
circle.
and forth. Yeah, because I mean, with him at JUCO, he didn't even play in JUCO. I mean, he literally practiced, got hurt, and then didn't even play the whole season. So I don't know how much you can really rely on him. He's got the size and the skill set to do something this year, but do you really want to depend on that? I mean, you want Gilbert Edmond to have 3.5, 4 sacks this year.
You want Gilbert to at least give you DMAC like level of.
Yeah,
You kind of want some type of DMAC level of production. If you can get that, I think okay. I just hope Gilbert. I just hope what we saw in the spring with Edmond was just him learning and not. Yeah. That's why he wasn't playing the way I maybe anticipated. What else you got? You can ask me something now. I'm running out of questions.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the defensive tackle room because you said something about Odell. You got guys like Fabian Lovett, Daryl Jackson, which we got to see if he gets his waiver officially. Mm-hmm. I imagine he will see. I don't want to ever assume things with that. Braden Fisk, Dennis Briggs is kind of hybrid right now. I think he sticks to the defensive tackle spot. I don't really think he plays in much anymore. I think the injury kind of ruined his development with that. You got some other guys in there as well that are pretty good. What do you think about that room? Do you think it's one of the better units in college football, or do you think?
I love that room for this year. I think they stacked that room for this year, as a matter of fact. I mean, getting Lovett back, which I think a lot of us, Lovett had declared for the, not the draft, but the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of us thought Lovett was pretty much out the door. And I recently did a video of like some of the most important players, I think, not named Jordan Travis. And to me, Lovett was number one because you saw the difference in this defense when he was on the field. And when he wasn't on the field, team just moved up and down the field on us. Love it coming back. Then you bring in a guy like Fisk, Fisk is just as versatile as a Dennis. Fisk is probably a souped-up version of Dennis Briggs in the sense of he can play out or outside or inside. You still got Briggs. I love the upside of Lyons and Tafase. I wish we could have kept Thomas or Woody. Yeah, I like both of those young players. I actually wish we could have kept both of them, but it is what it is there. I love the room. This is the point. Even KJ, that's a freshman. Bright future, right? My issue is after this year. And I didn't even mention Joshua Farmer, right? My issue is after this year, though. Is Farmer going to test the portal again after this year? Or is he just, my question becomes, Lovett's gone. Fisk is gone. Briggs is gone. Mm-hmm. We still got Malcolm Ray leaning around there. But if some of these younger guys might be able to leap a Malcolm Ray, not knocking Malcolm Ray, but we'll see what he gets. My issue becomes next year. But I love the room for this year. And I think that might be the deepest room in the country. Definitely the ACC. I don't know if there's a deeper room in the ACC at interior D-line than what we got.
Yeah, I will say this too, since you were talking about Fabian Lovett. I know some people had actually reached out to me on my account on Instagram, was talking about the video where they were paintballing, going out, do a trip for the team and everything. Well, one of the people were actually seeing Fabian Lovett in a boot on his foot problem again. I reached out to him, asked him, how's everything going, making sure everything was good. He said it was fine.
Wasn't he in a boot in the spring?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about that. I think I talked about it.
Yeah. And so everybody was saying, well, it's still lingering. No, he's
I think it's one of the situations where you keep him in the boot because it keeps pressure off of it.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But
just in case anybody was wondering, because I had people wondering about it, and they screenshotted like where he was in the boot, and I said, "No, he's good." So,
yeah, no, I think our interior D line depth is amazing. As a matter, I think it's so good that Fuller mentioned it in an interview during the spring. I do think you might see a little bit more what they're going to call 5-man fronts. But what I really think you're going to see, what you're going to see is like Lovett on the inside, Fisk, and then probably maybe Jackson or Farmer on the opposite side of Lovett, and then you're going to have Verse and Pat, de facto defensive ends, but maybe standing up or something like. I think that's what you're going to see. I think you're going to almost more of a 3-4-esque. But they're going to call it a 5-man front.
Yeah, they actually did this last year a little bit too in goal line packages. So this isn't brand new. They've done this before. It's just they didn't have the depth.
I think you're going to see that for sure. I actually like I like our front seven. I like our defense as a whole. I think our linebacker room is good. I love the fact that you got Bethune back.
Yeah.
Deloach, Lundy. I said it when we got Bethune was it last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that Lundy's now being pushed into that third option because now I feel like he's way more effective.
I will say this, and I'll make a bold statement here. It's Lundy's money year. He'll be the leading tackler.
I remember last year you said the linebacker room would be the best room on the defense. And they were very improved here.
It was close.
They were very improved. They were very improved last year. And I thought Lundy excelled.
Yeah.
Because my knock on Lundy was always just that he's not an every down backer.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get Bethune and when you have Deloach, now you can use Lundy where he's needed, right?
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see Omar Graham and if he can move into this rotation because I think he adds something to that room. I'm excited for Blake in the future. Yeah. I think Blake just looks like a linebacker to me, and I'm of the opinion that linebackers aren't made; they're born. And Blake Nicholson looks like he was born to play. So
we just got to make sure no more Randy specials after this season. That's what I'm waiting on. If we can get past the Randy specials, a couple of those, and we can actually get some quality depth and transfers in the portal, I think we could really be something special for the next couple of years at linebacker. But
backer doesn't worry me though. And the secondary doesn't really worry me either. I do struggle with my safety depth just because we rotated so many guys there last year. I think people underestimate how much Jarquez McCullough played for you.
Yeah.
And before Sidney Williams got hurt, how much he was rotating.
Yeah.
I worry. Who are those guys? My question. Do they move? Yeah. I made the talk about maybe moving AZ back there. I don't know if AZ is willing to do that, but.
I really do think KJ Kirkland's going to be the guy to step up there. I'm
not a freshman, but
he's already been there. It's not like you're having to get a Conrad Hussey out there which Conrad Hussey's going to be impressive. He's going to play. He's not going to play a whole lot. I think Shaheem Brown is going to be your prototypical. So I think Akeem Dent, for example, I think he's a C safety.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Shaheem is like a B- with potential to get better into that. Yeah. And I'm more worried about Ventrell Cypress at cornerback at your number 2 spot than I am at your safety position.
I'm not, only because even if Cypress, and I've made this talk about Cypress, I'm interested to see if Cypress is, he played at Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock, but
yeah, when
you're the only decent corner, of course teams aren't going to throw at you. But even if Cypress isn't what he was at Virginia, I think AZ is going to take a step. I'm not too worried. I guess, I don't know. Can you move Cypress? Or, what makes you worried about that spot?
It just the consistency bothers me more than anything because it's more of a man-to-man corner at that point. And I get he struggled in the spring because he just enrolled at Florida State. He's getting back with the practice, understanding the coaching staff, the schemes, everything like that. I just think there's going to be more guys that are going to be able to step up at that quarterback spot more than Cypress. I think his impact, since he is a redshirt junior, is going to be coming more in 2024 with Renato Green being out of the system at this point.
Cypress is a junior?
Mm-hmm. He's a redshirt junior.
I thought he was a senior. Okay.
Yeah, so he's got another year after this one, which maybe not. Maybe he wants to go to the NFL after
right.
year.
But no, I just thought he was a senior, though. I thought he was a senior. So that's actually, again, that's actually good. It's actually good. Maybe it does take Cypress a year. Maybe not. We'll see. Are
you worried about Kevin Noles at corner? Since he did miss the whole entire spring, with Vance.
So I was watching Jaden Floyd's YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And on there, Kevin Noles said he expects to be out until mid-season.
Mm-hmm.
He said that on there. So
yeah.
I'm not worried about Noles. I would like to see him healthy because I actually think Noles is a guy that you could have used maybe at safety if you needed to. But I like who we got at that nickel spot. I think Vance Greedy kind of showed that he was the guy there even before the Noles injury.
Yeah.
My only problem with Greedy is he's so tiny.
Yeah. Well, you can see what happened against Wake Forest when he.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean he was right there for the pick, and he just got out muscled for it. But I think if there's one, and I know he wasn't an early enrollee, but I think very similar to Noles, I think Edwin Joseph could be an impact guy at that nickel spot. I just think he's naturally gifted to do that.
Well, I mean, he has really got his recruiting hat on lately. So
I hope so.
He's definitely gotten us some pretty good prospects to at least entertain the idea of coming to Florida State.
I hope so. So it's interesting that we talk all this about defense because I don't think there's any worry offensively.
There's worries.
So what you got offensively? What do you think?
Offensive line is
it worries
not depth. I'm just saying like who the starting five is going to be. I think that worries you a little bit more just because you want to get the best five out there. It may not be best five at their natural position. So, for example, Byers, he usually plays tackle. He's been playing tackle most of his career at UTEP. He moved over to Florida State. He's been playing tackle then because, Demetri Emmanuel was still trying to figure out, how to get his waiver approved and everything at that point. So they were just kind of sliding people over at guard, just trying to figure out everything. But I think Byers is one of your best, if not the best, offensive lineman on the unit.
Interesting. But I agree with you, and I've talked about that at length. We have a great problem there because I believe we're like 3 deep at almost every spot on the O-line. I legitimately believe that. Maybe with the exception of center. But then again, Darius Washington can roll in there if you need him to. But
yeah, he's average.
I agree. Like, I think just talking from people in the chat, if you talk to 5 different people, you're gonna have 5 different starting O-lines.
Exactly.
And that's very interesting. I personally think, as of right now, I think Bless is gonna start at left. What I saw in the spring just shocked me.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh, Bless, he got a lot better from what I saw last year. The way he was able to handle Jared Verse and Pat Payton. So from left to right, I got Bless. I still think that people kind of argue with me on Casey Roddick, but I think it's going to be Bless, Roddick. Until somebody beats Mo, it's going to be Mo. Meach coming back is huge, but I think that right guard spot could definitely still be up for grabs. Because you say you think Byers is the best O-lineman maybe on the team.
Yes.
And you may not be wrong. I think Keandre Jones is the most physically gifted guy in that offensive line room.
Very underrated as well.
And then Robert Scott obviously will play right tackle. So it's either Meach, but for right now I got Meach at right guard.
I agree, and I would not be surprised. I understand that Meach did actually come back and play another season. He got his waiver approved, but don't count him out for probably not even starting either.
No,
I
agree because
he's an all ACC caliber type of offensive lineman, but that's kind of the risk that you have because you have 10 guys that can probably be able to play reasonable minutes. You got I looked it up the other day. They have 8 offensive linemen with starting experience.
No,
so,
we're as deep as we've been.
Yeah,
and we're deeper than any O-line that I can personally remember.
Oh yeah,
and I had this argument a couple episodes ago, like 2013 team. The starting unit was great, but you can't name a backup guy on that unit.
No,
they weren't deep. We got very injuries didn't happen, and we got lucky. But I mean, from Armella to Jalen Early, I mean, nobody talks about Darius Washington, but the guy can literally play any position on the O-line if you need him to.
Yeah, and he's going to be kind of your first guy off the bench.
Yeah,
type of situation.
Darius Washington's going to be your first guy off the bench for sure.
What are your thoughts on Armella? Considering I know a lot of people in the chat are talking about that because everybody's got a different viewpoint.
My only worry about Armella is that he's impatient, but as long as Armella's patient, he's going to be the future. He'll be
the starter right tackle.
Yeah, him and Simmons will anchor your tackle spots in the future. Armella has a starting spot here for sure. Yeah. My only worry with these young men nowadays is that they get a little impatient. But other than that, no worries about Armella. Zero.
Yeah, I
And
definitely think.
like let's get it said. Armella's coming. He's
Yeah,
coming. So I'm not worried about Armella at all.
I just wonder what's going to happen with guys like Estes, Quayshawn Sapp if he doesn't work out.
There's a couple guys that I'm a little worried about,
Yeah.
and Dontre Richardson. Like, where does he fit on the future of this team? Kanaya Charlton, where does he fit?
Yeah.
Some of these guys that they took, who at the time we needed all the O-line we could get. So absolutely, but now it's like, well, Keandre Jones is a redshirt junior. Even if he don't start this year, he'll be back next year. Byers is a junior. He'll be back next year. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you start thinking about Antavius Woody, for example. We had gotten 4-star interior and also right tackle at times. You thought that you really needed him. You didn't really need him in your rotation. He moves over to defensive tackle and then eventually.
Now he's gone. Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, that just speaks to what the depth is at that position. I mean, it's how it is.
So you make a good point. I don't think O-line's a worry, but I do agree with you. They're going to need to figure out who's starting. And maybe some of your favorite guys might not get a shot. For instance, Byers isn't in my starting 5. Yeah. But like you said, Byers might be the best guy on the team. So would it shock me if Meach is on the bench and Byers is your starting guard? Because I do think if Byers starting, he has to start interior. He's not a tackle. Not at this level. At UTEP, maybe he was a tackle. At Florida State, I don't think he's a tackle.
Yeah, and you have to also think, too, you didn't even include Robert Scott, at one point at your left tackle spot where he's been primarily at this
He's
time.
Been your left tackle since he was a freshman.
Games. Yeah. So, I mean, do you really doubt that? I mean,
great problem to have, though.
Yes.
Gosh, outside of that, I don't think there's any worries offensively.
What do you think is going to happen with tight end number 2? I know that it's the second tight end in an offense, but Mike Norvell is going to use 2 tight ends. Think it's going to be Morlock or Biscuit or?
I think it's going to start off at. So what I like is Mike Norvell uses his tight ends. It's been the problem. So the problem previous years was that not that we used them, is that we didn't have the caliber that we needed. You had Cam, and then at that point, Biscuit was still a project, and we were throwing out a walk-on Preston Daniels. But they have routinely played 3 tight ends. This isn't going to be something brand new. Now the talent is Biscuit has finally emerged. I think he's the second guy right now, but Morlock's going to get plenty of opportunity.
Yeah.
And they're going to rotate all those, just like Preston Daniels had plenty of opportunities, right? Wyatt Rector had plenty of opportunities. So I'm not worried about tight end. Mike Norvell's always used them. The problem in the past was, were they really up the caliber? Now that's not a worry, right? And now if you got Fox and Thomas coming, woof.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried. There's a couple of 2 spots you're kind of wondering what's going to happen. Running back, second running back spot, second quarterback spot. I mean,
I don't call them worries though.
Yeah, I mean,
quarterback's always like Travis goes down. That's always going to be that question.
Yeah.
So I don't care who you think quarterback number 2 is. They're not Jordan Travis, right? So unless you think AJ Duffy or Rodemaker is going to take this massive leap, that's going to be a worry. Running back,
it was. I don't even for Trayshawn Ward as your second running back.
I do agree. I think Ward and Benson complemented each other extremely well, and I don't know if you have that same complement. But I'm very interested in Keziah Holmes, who I didn't get to see in the spring, so I want to see that. I think Rodney Hill has a bright future. Yeah. And then don't sleep on Toafili, man. I think he's done nothing. Toafili's done nothing but get better every single year.
But is he like a Hilton, where you've seen what you've seen?
Toafili?
He is, and
Toafili?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think so. I think
Toafili is at point in his career. I mean,
I think Toafili. The beauty of Toafili is I wouldn't compare him to Keyshawn Hilton. The beauty of Toafili
not is player, but
the beauty of him is Toafili might be the most modern day back you have on the team, meaning doing anything you want with him. He can run between tackles. You can put him out wide. You can put him out in the backfield. I mean, I think Toafili's going to get a lot of talk when it's time for NFL draft time because he's so versatile. Similar to the previous running back Mike had at Memphis. That's at Dallas right now. I forget his name. Yeah. I mean, you just do what you want to do with guys like that, right? I'm not worried about 12 Philly.
Yeah.
And Benson's a physical freak, right?
Yeah,
I can't wait to see these guys.
And that's the kind of the thing too about a lot of the Heisman hype for Jordan. I get it. He's a really good quarterback. He's gonna do really good things in this offense. But they're a run oriented team.
So that's my worry. That's the only worry that I've had with Florida State. It's not the personnel. I think you got the players, you figure it out. Like who's going to be running back number 2? Man, we got a boatload of them. They're going to figure that out. Not worried about that. Who's tight end number 4? I don't know. They'll figure that out.
Yeah.
My worry becomes, do we go against what we beat under Mike Norvell? We've been a predominantly run team. But you don't add Keon Coleman. You don't add Bell. You don't add Morlot. You don't Winston Wright's coming back off an injury. Like, you don't make all these moves and all of a sudden you're gonna, like, I don't know. Yeah. Do we start airing the ball? I worry that we start airing the ball out 40 times a game. I don't want to see it, but that's my worry. Do we go against our identity because you have all these weapons?
And I worry about you with NC State from last season. I know it was a terrible loss, terrible decision, terrible pass in that moment, but they were very aggressive passing.
I don't blame. I to this day, I don't blame. Was it okay? The interception lost the game. Okay, but I don't. Everything that led up to that point lost the game.
Yeah. What I'm saying out of that point though is a lot of times in that game, the running game was not really working effectively as it should have been in that game. So they forced a little bit more passes in terms of just getting, dominance in that game, I guess you could say. They had the game, just kind of slipped away from them, and eventually things happened and snowballed out of control.
Yeah, a bunch of drops in that game.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's the same thing with Louisville as well. I know that Jordan went down in that game, but they were kind of rolling offensively, and then he had a couple of missed throws, and the next thing you know, Jordan gets hurt, and now the offense discombobulated. You really don't know where to turn to. And
he had that one play. Jordan had the one play where he hits Cam McDonald in the hands, but he's not looking, and then that's an interception. So I can't blame Jordan for that. So those are the things I think you're going to see improvement there. Obviously, with the talent level gets raised, we shouldn't see that. Like, we're a fumble on the goal line away from beating LSU by 2 scores. I love Trayshawn Ward. You don't fumble the ball there. Maybe you don't make that call there because I've made that case too. But at the end of the day, the player did fumble the ball and the ball hit him right in the hands, right? You don't make that mistake. So I guess the biggest question I have on offensively is just the chemistry. And with all these new pieces and with these guys that are going to be expecting to get touches, are you able to keep everybody healthy and happy? Outside of that, man, there's too much talent on offense for it to be a bad unit for sure.
It's definitely going to be a money year for Keon Coleman. Like, he's wanting to be draft bound. Johnny Wilson's got to get more consistent, as you said.
Coleman's made it clear that he's here for a year.
Yeah, and he's going to be here for a year, and
he's made that clear. Yeah, he's made that clear. So
maybe Kentron Portier, might be a situation there if he exceeds and does what he wants to do and breaks out.
Well, Dustin Hill showed up, so all bets are off. I think Dustin Hill looks the part, came in shape, looks great. I don't have any big expectations from him this year, but that doesn't mean next year he's not firmly in the mix of this thing. Hakeem, wide receiver is great for the future. We're set at a lot of these positions in the future.
Yeah, I will say this too. Offense is such a great thing to have in this Mike Norvell team for the 2023 season. I think that's partially why you're seeing a lot of offensive power for the 2024 class, because you look at that offense in 2024, while it's good, it's without Jordan. It's going to probably be without Trey Benson, without Johnny Wilson, without Keon Coleman, maybe without Jaheim Bell, some of the offensive linemen. You're starting to list off some of those guys, and you're like, man, while this offense is really impressive, can they be able to sustain that success and maybe go from a 10-2 season this year to 8-4? Do you see that much of a regression based off of some of the guys you have that you're losing, or can you rebound and get there?
I think for 2024, I think that team's going to be based on who steps up at quarterback. I still think the pieces around them will be good enough. I mean, we're talking about O-line, but we just talked about how they're 3 deep at it. You know, they're 10, 12 deep on O-line. So, okay, you'll lose Robert Scott. You'll lose Bless. You'll lose Roddick.
And then
You'll lose Meach, but then Armella is now going to be there. Simmons might be ready. Early's going to be there. We'll see if Quayshawn sat. And Atkins is going to go to the portal too. I guarantee you this offseason, they're going to recruit one of the better old linemen in the portal because that's just what he does, right? It's going to be about the quarterback position. Is it Rodemaker? It would not shock me with Luke coming in and him probably having the highest ceiling of any quarterback that's going to be on that roster for sure. Someone's going to get and just natural. Someone's going to get pushed out. Someone's going to. I don't know if that's Luke. I don't know if that's AJ, and I don't know if that's Glenn. But with not Luke, Tate. But with the arrival of Luke, I expect at least one guy to transfer, and now we'll see. We'll see how they replace Jordan Travis. I think you've recruited that quarterback position so well. You don't need to go to the portal. Trust your development and trust who you put out there. But the question is, who is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, do you trust a Rodemaker that's been in the system for so long? When the lights get bright, will he be able to perform? He did in the Louisville game, but you didn't really see the rest of the season.
That was for a half.
Yeah, and
he started off shaky as hell in the Louisville game too.
Yeah.
So I need to see more from Tate, but I do like having a guy that knows the playbook in and out, right?
Yeah.
AJ Duffy's still a wild card. For some reason, fans are kind of down on AJ. I'm excited to see what AJ, if he ever turns out. Brock Glenn might have the most natural raw ability on the team. Not including Travis, but out of the young quarterbacks. And then I think Luke is even more naturally gifted than Brock. So we're going to see. But they're going to have to find a quarterback next year. That's going to be the big deal. Because running back, even Benson and LT leave, you're still going to have Rodney Hill, Singletary. You're bringing in Cam. Cam's going to get carries day one.
Yeah.
Okay. Cam's going to. So running back, you're going to be fine. Receiver, Hakeem in year 2. Vendravius Jacobs, who they already love as a freshman. So you only expect him to get better in year 2. Goldie, Dustin Hill. You still have Tron, maybe. Darian Williamson, maybe. And then that's not even counting maybe this ridiculous wide receiver class that they might get in. I have no worries about the offense outside of quarterback. As good as Luke may be, I don't want. I mean, if he's that good, then play him year 1. But usually, you don't want to play your freshman quarterback year 1, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, Tramel Jones, 25 kid that we got committed.
Yeah, that's another one.
Will they be able to bring in another quarterback past him if just something doesn't pan out in 2024?
Right.
That it's too early to tell at this point, but
it is going to be key too. Like right now, you're recruiting quarterbacks very well.
Yeah.
Jordan Travis is a Heisman contender, but Mike inherited Jordan. Mm-hmm. So the question is going to be, which one of Mike's quarterbacks is he going to show that he can develop his own guy? Which I think Jordan Travis has been at Florida State long enough that they have more than they have. They have definitely developed Jordan. You can talk about transfer portal you want. Jordan Travis is an FSU born and bred player, in my opinion. He's been here too long to not be. But that question is going to be put out there in recruiting circles. Who's the quarterback that might develop? It's going to be critical for them to put whoever they put on the field next year to be successful. So
yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see how Florida State kind of rebound. Will they keep that same level of intensity? I know everybody can't be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. You got all these programs out there that just keep rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding, and go from 10-2 seasons to 10-2 season the next year, or 11-1 and 12-0. So,
are you worried about kicker?
No, and I actually like Jake Winberg as well. I do like our 2024 commit. Number 1 in the Coles class of kicker ratings as well. Top kicker recruit in 247 Sports. Been a guy that Florida State's really liked for a long period of time. They've camped him several times. He actually went to the camp this past weekend, visited campus. I actually showcased a picture on that on my Twitter. But he's one of those guys that Florida State really enjoys. I think Ryan Fitzgerald gonna have to step it up this season. I know a lot of fans are indifferent about him. You also got Tyler Keltner as well from East Tennessee State. We'll see how he kind of projects as a prospect. Maybe he's able to come in as a redshirt senior transfer and being able to get that consistency Florida State needs, especially in all those close games that we're going to have against LSU and Clemson and Florida late in the year and stuff like that. Can he be able to do that? But overall, I think Florida State's done a really good job developing that talent, finding that talent for the 2024 class, and getting him into campus hopefully in December.
Who replaces Micah at returning punts?
That's a tough one because there's not really been a guy that's really stood out. They tried Van Jervius Jacobs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can Destin Hill do that? He did a little bit in high school. Maybe that's how you utilize him this season. Otherwise, I mean, Winston Wright Jr. is definitely going to be your kickoff returner, but can he return punts? That's kind of – he didn't really do it a whole lot in West Virginia. But, I mean, as long as somebody can catch the ball and not have any drops, that's all I pray for. That's all I ask for. The football gods have got to be on our side with that, please. So,
No, I'm with you.
I don't know. I mean, I would even trust Micah Pittman on one hip than trust some of the players that we might have trying to return kicks. And I just think they're trying to put too much and force an issue for somebody that probably doesn't need to be back there. But that's just where we're at. I mean, maybe it gets better, but I mean, Mike's all about special teams. He talked about it in his interim press conference. Special teams is what's going to define us. And it has. I mean, that's quite partly it has. So I know not want to talk about it because it's boring. It's boring to talk about special teams. They want to talk about offense and defense, but it's important.
Oh, definitely important. Definitely important. I believe they'll figure it out, though. I believe they'll figure it out.
JP's got to lock it in this year. That's all I know. So,
what else you got, man? What other questions you got?
I do got another question for you. Also,
keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah. So, with Surtain, with the DBs and everything, I believe this past season, I think they had 7 interceptions from the past season. Very, very low. Did not force the ball over. Do you expect that number to change or even be up to 12, 13? Do you think there's a possibility that they can actually get back in one season to turn the ball over and get back to what we used to do?
Sure. I mean, I'm interested. That's one of the biggest things I'm interested to watch with our DBs. I feel like we haven't had a true ball hawk since like Asante.
Yeah.
So the question becomes: can Surtain, is that a coaching thing, right? Is Pat going to bring that out, or has that just been a lack of that type of player? And then of course that's also going to rely on how much the type of pressure we're able to get. If you're able to get more pressure on quarterback and force them out of a rhythm, that's how you're going to get these picks.
I agree.
So I think those things are played hand in hand. We expect to have one of the better pass rushes with Verse and Pat, and of course the interior D line. We'll see. I don't know how many picks did we have last year.
I think it was 7 if I remember looking at it from a while back.
Like, can we double that? I mean, theoretically, sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we play North Alabama. You know, there's some opponents in there that you might get 2 or 3. So, will you get one on Jaden Daniels? Will you get one on Klubnik? Maybe.
Right.
You know, sure as hell you're going to get one against Graham Mertz. So, I mean, that's not a debate, but I mean,
TVD will probably throw a couple too. We've shown that. I think. Yeah, I think it's going to the defense as a whole. Like, I don't want to just put turnovers. It's more than just turnovers is a group effort. So it's just, for me, I just can't pin it on the defensive backs.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to put a number on it. It's just, I don't know. It's hard.
I got you.
Go ahead.
I'll end off one more question before I head off here because I do got to wake up early in the morning to go to Tallahassee. But
I got you.
all right. So with expectations, Florida State is talking the media, talking about them, saying they're darling to win the national championship. Everything else, Mike understands what roster he has here. I don't know if it's quite national championship ready.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they have a reasonable expectation and are able to get past those expectations and complete what they want to complete this year?
Well, first I'll talk about it from Mike's standpoint. Then I'll talk about it from mine because I don't feel like Mike shied away from these expectations. As a matter of fact, I almost feel he doubled down on them, and I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, I remember when he was hired and the fan base is all, this is the standard. Well, now we're talking about being the standard or setting a new standard, and now we're shying away from it a little bit. So I don't understand the mindset there. No, I think Mike embraces it because that's the expectation at Florida State, and it's going to be that, right? So I have no problem embracing it. And the facts are, in the ACC, there's just a better path. I mean, this season is LSU, Clemson, and of course your rivals. But that's basically what your season is. And if you start the season 4-0, you're playoff bound. I think.
Yeah.
You're going to have to really fumble the bag down the stretch, and I don't see that happening. If you start 4-0, you're playoff bound. So, from my standpoint, on face value, I don't know if we're a national championship team. But with the right matchups, anything can happen. And again, with the schedule, with the fact that you're playing the ACC, and just in the ACC, it's basically just Clemson and no one else.
Yeah.
Just beat Clemson. You just beat Clemson and everything else can take care of itself. Before you know it, you're in the playoff mix. Maybe you get matched with the USC. I love that matchup with USC.
Yeah.
I don't love an Ohio State matchup as much. So there's certain teams that I don't like with the matchup. But if you give me USC, USC might be a year or two away from competing with Florida State in the trenches. I think our trenches are just flat out better. They have great skill position guys. I think we can bully them in the trenches. I love the matchup with the USC if you can get them in the playoff. I obviously don't like a Georgia or an Ohio State matchup, right? So it all depends on the matchups, man. If we win the ACC and you get in that playoff and you can get lucky, before you know it, you're TCU. No one saw TCU, doing. Now, granted, I don't want the national championship to go that way, but no one saw TCU ended up being where they was. But they got the matchups and it just worked out for them.
Yeah, I know everybody's worried about like Pittsburgh and losing to them, but Phil Jakovich has not played well against Florida State.
Yeah, no, he hasn't. I just think Pitt's still it's a trap game because of the where I believe it's an away game and it's right before Miami, so there's just going to be some natural looking past that. Just naturally, they're going to look past it.
Yeah, I will lead off with this too. If Louisville ends up screwing our ACC championship hopes, I'm going to be pretty upset because they don't play Clemson.
Yeah, they don't play none of the big dogs in the ACC. They got it's possible. That's
they're
why
not a great team, but they're
not. But that's why I keep saying this season isn't about. Everybody's making a big deal about LSU. This season is about Clemson. Mm-hmm. It's always been about Clemson. What have we lost? 7, 8 times to them in a row. It's about Clemson. It's about getting back to ACC. And the only way you do that, the road goes through Clemson. It's just the natural way it is. So.
Yeah, man.
You beat Clemson and you put that Louisville stuff. If you beat Clemson, now Clemson's got to worry about Louisville.
Yep.
Beat Clemson.
But I appreciate it as always. It's been a while, man, since we've done it.
It's been a while since we've been on here, so I appreciate you kicking it with us for about an hour and 30 minutes, man.
Of course, man.
Anytime.
All right, man. Hey, well, I'll definitely take you up on your offer one day, and hopefully you keep having those banger videos. Everybody hit the like button before I head out and everything. I really appreciate it, Polk, and have a good rest of your day, man.
You too, man. Hey, get some good stuff for us tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, man. There you go, guys. That was your boy Norville Central. I thought that was pretty good, man. Came in here and we talked some ball tonight. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hit that like button. I am still chilling. Man, we usually go pretty long on these, and it's only been an hour 30, and that felt like a pretty long conversation. So I don't know. What are y'all thinking? Y'all want to go another 30, or because I probably go live tomorrow. We'll probably do a Saturday night open mic too. So y'all probably gonna see me tomorrow night. But what y'all think? Y'all want to go another 30, or are we done? Did we get our fill tonight? I thought we hit on some pretty good points tonight. I think so. Like 2 different perspectives, some recruiting insight. I thought it was pretty good stuff. I think FSU can easily go 12-0 if the offensive line can block. I don't worry about the O-line blocking. So, but again, 12-0 is definitely a possibility. Where I get a little worried about is those playoff matchups. Appreciate you, Raymond. Get Terrence. Terrence, where you at? They want Terrence to talk? Carrie, what's going on? He says, yep, another 30. Okay, we'll do another 30. We'll do another 30. I mean, it's only 30 minutes. But if we're going to do another 30, come on, bring the questions. I done blew all mine out with Norvell. So I done shot my shot, so to speak. So what y'all got? Carrie says, what you thought about Brandon Gant's tweet? What is the tweet? I'm not aware. Is something new? I haven't seen anything. What is the tweet? Terrell says he has questions, but open mic could be better. Okay. So yes, if you got some questions, you can definitely save it for open mic. He really wanted to stay in Tally. Oh, that's what he said. So I guess he's alluding to maybe he was pushed out. I mean, I'm a fan of Brandon Gant. The problem with Brandon Gant, man, is he was playing at a position that he kind of wasn't naturally a linebacker. He was a safety, but he was moved to backer out of kind of necessity, but now he's an undersized backer. Guys like Omar Graham was probably going to take his spot. Obviously, he's not getting playing time over the top 3 in Lundy, Deloach, and Bethune. So it's just best probably for Gant to go and try to be a starter somewhere. But I can understand him saying I want to stay in Tally, but I can also understand Florida State kind of easing him out of here. Unfortunately, that's the business of college football. It's what it's become with the portal, and teams can at a higher rate they can push out players and then replace those players with some portal stuff. Unfortunately, man, I've been saying with not just Brandon Gant, but with other positions, like if you don't produce by a certain point, you can expect to be replaced on the roster, right? So that's why, like Byron Turner, this is money year. If you don't get none out of Byron Turner, he won't be here next year. I can guarantee you that. So and other guys of that ilk, Darian Williamson, you know. Char says, will our safety position still be good enough to hold off better teams like LSU and Clemson? Well, I don't know. I mean, your question's interesting, like the way you worded it, interesting. I don't know if our safety position is going to be the determining factor against LSU or Clemson. And if your front 7 is kind of as good as we think it might be, that's going to make the job of your safeties easier. So I think on the surface, your safeties are fine. The question is how much pressure or how much of a load are you going to put on their shoulders? I don't think we have any game-changing safeties. That doesn't mean they're not good enough as long as everybody around them is doing their part. I guess that's the best way I can answer that, Char. Thank you for the question, though. Marcus goes, Pope, do you think 2024 quarterback is actually on the roster? I do. I think you're recruiting it too well to go to the portal. I think the portal would be damning. And this is my personal opinion. There's certain positions where the portal is irrelevant, meaning wide receiver for me is one of them. Not only can you recruit wide receivers well, but you should go to the portal. And really, if you look at all the top teams, Bama constantly goes to the portal for wide receivers. Texas, these teams go to the portal all the time for receivers because you can get receivers, right? What is the point of recruiting a quarterback? What is the point of recruiting AJ? Elite 11 quarterback. Brock Glenn was Elite 11 quarterback. Luke Cromenhoek, another Elite 11 quarterback. Like, you're recruiting all these guys to then go to the portal, I think it's going to speak ill of your future quarterback recruiting. You got to put some of these at home, especially at quarterback. You need to put those homegrown talents on the field if you want to continue to recruit them. If we go to the portal, you're going to see a dip in quarterback recruiting eventually, because if I'm a high school recruit, what am I signing to you for? If you're just going to go to the portal and get somebody to play over me, that means you're not doing a good job developing me. At least that's as a prospect, that's how I would look at it. See, I didn't see any of those tweets, but that tells you what might be going down in Colorado. That question I asked was stupid. My bad about that. I really need to pay attention to the recruiting. Man, first of all, there's no such thing as stupid questions. Well, maybe there is, but then you're talking sports, man, whatever. No such thing as a stupid question. That's number one. And number two, bruh, I would tell most people don't pay attention to recruiting. Recruiting's not even the same ball game it used to be a few years ago when it was kind of fun to follow recruiting. Now, it's not as fun as it used to be for a lot of reasons. Save your sanity and don't be like one of these grown men on Twitter who tweet at kids because the kid doesn't choose the school they want them to choose, and they call kids. Save your sanity. Don't follow recruiting. I follow it because I enjoy it, and also because I come on here and talk about it, but save your sanity. 10-2 is the floor, 12-0 ceiling, plus conference championship game with strong possibility of college football playoff. Jeff with another $10, man. Jeff says read the super chat part. Question: if we beat LSU and beat Clemson, but then lose to LSU in the conference title game, do we make the playoff? I think so. Now that may count on how good Clemson is, but if you have a win over what will probably be a top 7 LSU team, Clemson will be top 10-ish, or should be, unless they lose to Duke. Clemson will be a top 10 team. So you'll be 2 wins against 2 top 10 teams. That's not even counting the rest of your schedule. And as long as that championship game is a close game down the stretch, I mean, yeah, I don't know if you won't be able to make a case. Now, granted, that's going to count on everybody else around the country and what happens. But Florida State's going to have a good case. As long as everybody else has one loss, Florida State's going to have a case for the playoff. The problem is going to be is, what if Georgia's undefeated, Ohio State's undefeated, Texas goes undefeated, and then if Clemson beats you, even though you'll have won the first game, they win the championship game, there's going to be real big debate on Florida State, Clemson, and that might be a little iffy, right? But I think, as long as everybody else has a loss, you're right in the mix. They love Williamson. I look at West. West should have been gone. Hester, yes. Burrell probably should have been gone. And when I say guys should have been gone, that's not a not. I keep, that's not. It's just the facts of the matter. I'm looking at roster spots with West. You're not ever going to get anything out of West. Jackson West will be off the roster next year, no doubt. You have Jabril Powers and Brian Courtney on the roster now, along with Morlock and Biscuit, and of course Jaheim Bell. You're bringing in the number 1 tight end in the country, and Fox, one of the better athletes in the country, who's projected as a tight end. There's not going to be any room for Jackson West. Hester, I like Hester. My problem with Hester is, can they move him to actually? Can they stand him up and actually make him the linebacker? Because at 6'1", 230, he cannot. I don't see an edge rusher at this level. And then Burrell can't stay on healthy either. So let me scroll down a little bit. Carey says, "Polk, some folks left when you couldn't find 4 losses on the schedule last year." Hey. Kerry, I appreciate you giving me that credit, because I was the first one preaching 9-3. People told me I was crazy. Between UNC or Clemson in the ACC champ, between UNC or Clemson in the ACC champ, under or over, until somebody unseats Clemson, I got to go with Clemson. Only thing I like out of UNC is Drake May. I actually like Drake May. I think he's QB1 as far as in the draft. But nothing else on that team. They don't have a defense to speak of. Like North Carolina, they might win their fair share of games on offense, but I'm not worried about North Carolina as a team. And then Clemson's still going to field a better team. Hopefully bags are being dropped tonight. I'm sure to some degree they are. What is Marco over here talking about? Our resident Louisville says Clemson lives rent-free in y'all heads. I still can't believe Syracuse beat them while U of L and FSU has it. Oh, in our heads. Well, I mean, they constantly win the conference until somebody unseats them consistently. Like you can't have Pitt wins one year, but then until someone is constantly beating them, I mean, they are the big dogs in the. It's not that they live in our heads; it's that to win the ACC, you got to go through Clemson. Clemson is in the position that Florida State was in, that used to be in, where the road to the ACC went through Tallahassee. It no longer does. We're trying to make you have to detour through Tallahassee now. Have you seen their schedule? I don't see many losses on Georgia's schedule. I don't know if they three-peat. That's extremely tough, but they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the mix. So, Char, I tried my PS3 is obviously it's an old PS3, right? It's not holding up. So last weekend I tried to get back on. I was actually going to restart the series because the team that I have doesn't have Keon Coleman. So I want to put Keon Coleman on the Noles and pair him with Johnny Wilson. And I couldn't get it to work. And I just think the PS3 is dying on me, unfortunately. That's what happens when they haven't released a college football game since the PS3 days. So I don't know if it's the PS3 or some other stuff. I'm going to keep trying, but I want to bring it back, but the hardware is not working right now. Oh, we play them. UNC, the whole SEC is going to be a slaughterhouse once Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, I think I recall seeing Florida's schedule for like 24, where in 1 year, Florida's going to play Miami, Florida State, LSU, Texas, Bama, Georgia. Like that is ridiculous. No, the whole SEC is going to be a slaughterhouse once Texas and Oklahoma get fully integrated in there. And if these SEC teams want to keep their out-of-conference schedules, for instance, Florida has to, they don't have to, but Florida plays Florida State every year. I expect that to continue. It's going to be brutal. You know what I'm saying? I see at least 3 first-rounders for FSU in next year's draft. I see one for sure, right? That's Jarrett Verse. Now the question is going to become Pat. Pat has all the intangibles that an NFL team is going to look for: 6'5", long wingspan, twitchy off the edge. How much production is he going to have to actually get a first-round grade is going to depend on Pat. I don't think, if you're alluding to Johnny, I don't think Johnny Wilson's a first-round wide receiver type. I'm not sure Keon Coleman is. Not with those guys in Ohio State looming. I don't know if Keon Coleman is. Running backs don't normally go in the first round, though Trey can play his way in there. I think Trey has all the physical abilities. It's just depending on if a team's going to value him. I don't know. I don't know about 3 first-rounders. 1 for sure. 1 in a possible. We're playing spades tonight. 1 in a possible. And that possible for 1 and 2 possible. That possible is Pat and Trey is interesting. I think Trey's going to test extremely well at the combine. He's built for the NFL. He looks like an NFL back. He might turn some heads. but also a team might think they can get that value in later rounds with Trey. I don't know, so it's tough. The SEC schedule's going to be insane. But I mean, look at the Big Ten though. The Big Ten's not going to be any easier. If Florida, for hypothetically speaking, they're already adding USC and UCLA. USC is getting all this hype, and people are sleeping on what Chip Kelly's doing at UCLA. You might want to pay a little bit more attention to what Chip Kelly's doing at UCLA. Those are two offensive type juggernauts. That's going to be in college football, I think, next year. For sake of argument, let's say you add Florida State and Clemson to the Big Ten. So in one season, you're going to have USC, UCLA, potentially Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, Florida State, Clemson. Like, that Big Ten schedule is not going to be a cakewalk either. Travis, as of today, it's hard for me to see Travis going above the third round. I think third round's being very kind. With a great season, he can definitely play his way up. But I would guess if you ask NFL scouts as of today, I don't know if they would have anything above a third round grade on Jordan. He's not exactly big or built, elite athlete, very good athleticism. He's not Lamar Jackson athlete, but he's very good athlete. Doesn't have the arm of a, he's an interesting prospect though. I would like to see how his arm translates because I'm looking at. I don't know if people would like this comparison. I'm almost looking at a more athletic Tua when I look at Jordan Travis. I think if you can go back and look at Tua now, people probably wouldn't draft Tua as high as he was because of the arm strength and things of that nature. And I almost think like Jordan Travis is a more athletic Tua. That's kind of my comparison there. What separates him is he's more athletic, but I don't know. And Tua went first round, so maybe Travis can go first round. With a great season, maybe he can go first round, but we'll see. Colorado versus TCU score. Going to be very interesting. I'm going to be interested to see what TCU looks like. Those teams in the Big Ten aren't as physical in the trenches, though. That's why the SEC is more brutal. To a certain degree, I agree with you. I think Michigan is, though. I agree with you about USC and UCLA. Ohio State recruits the trenches just as well as any. Ohio State recruits any position on the team just as well as any SEC team does. So I don't agree with that. But I will agree with you from top to bottom. You're right. The trenches aren't as deep as the SEC. I would agree with that top to bottom. But Ohio State is going to give you a run. Michigan's going to give you a run. And then teams like Wisconsin, right, always sneaky good for some reason. So you never know. Appreciate you, Daddy. Appreciate the listen. I definitely appreciate the like. You also got to remember, man, this playoff expands next year to 12 teams. So that you can make a case going forward that there's no reason why Florida State shouldn't always be in a playoff. I think the SEC is doing away with divisions. I don't think they're not this year, but I think the next year, I think the SEC is doing what everybody else is doing. We're just going to get the top two teams. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm almost positive the SEC is getting away from division. Sorry. JT is a shorter Kaepernick, but see, Kaepernick had a gun on him though. See, I have my problem with that comparison is, and Kaepernick was athletic too, so I can kind of see where you're going with. But Kaepernick also had a cannon. Kaepernick could sling the football. JT can throw, But there's going to be some throws in the NFL from hash to hash, or there's going to be some throws that JT ain't going to be able to make. And you see it with Tua, which is why I think he's a more athletic Tua. I don't know about the Kaepernick comparison, just because Kaepernick had a big arm. There wasn't a throw Kaepernick couldn't make. Now, he might not have been as accurate, and there's some other things, but there wasn't a throw he couldn't make. I just think there's going to be throws at the NFL level that JT's not going to be able to make. Next year, FSU better bring in at least 5 good trench dudes on defense. It's going to be interesting to see. I think because I think it's better to go away from the division. I think because people want to see the best play the best, even if that means they're going to play multiple times. I think you look at the Big Ten, and they for too many times they've had like Ohio State play like Purdue in the Big Ten championship game, when obviously the two best teams were Ohio State and Michigan, or Ohio State and Penn State, or Michigan and Penn State. But you're getting in the Big Ten championship game, right? You're getting games that don't matter. I mean, what was last year's? It was UNC and Clemson, but like I think most people would have told you the two best teams in the ACC we should have saw Florida State Clemson rematch, right? Last year in the SEC, you probably would have wanted to see Tennessee and Georgia in a rematch. I think that's why I think it's better. I think get away from the division stuff, and if that means the two best teams play twice a year, then the two best teams just play twice a year. I think the 12 teams, man, is going to be so interesting. But there's no reason why Florida State shouldn't be in the playoff almost every year when you start talking 12 teams. But that also means Bama's going to be in there every year, right? And all these other teams too. We need to run it up on Wake. We ain't beat Wake in a while either, Carrie. So we owe Wake. We owe some ass whoopings this year. we owe a Wake ass whooping. We owe Clemson ass whooping. We owe some ass whoopings this year, for sure. Again, man, y'all don't forget, man. Hit that like button for me. I haven't played this one in a minute, but y'all hit that like button like Greg Jones hits DB, man.
Go your motherfucking ass to sleep. Whoa, shit, what the fuck good buddy hit me with? I told him I wasn't sleepy. He had to have a brick in that bitch.
Hit that like button. But this has been a great show tonight, y'all, man. We got 10 more minutes, so don't stop asking. But tomorrow night, man, we might have some clarity on some commits. We might have a commit by the time we hit tomorrow night up on the open mic. So who knows what we'll be talking about tomorrow night. But I definitely plan on coming in here tomorrow night. We're gonna talk some more stuff. Again, this is Florida State's big recruiting weekend. This is it. July, I was told that July, when I say I was told, I wasn't told by like anybody important. I'm just saying I was told by the fan base that July is the month that Florida State can expect a big July month, and some of your bigger names are going to announce. Lester's announcing in July. Fox is announcing in July. Florida State could bring in a nice haul in the month of July coming up, and it all's going to stem from this weekend. It's all going to stem from this weekend, man. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. I think you missed the part about Clemson in that question of mine. Let's see what Char's talking about. Do I think we'll end up playing Clemson 3 times? No, I think no. There 2 lost teams. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to be impossible for 2 lost teams to make the playoffs, but even if a 2-loss team makes a playoff, like if we beat Clemson twice in 1 year, just theoretically, or Clemson beats us twice in 1 year, and let's say we still can somehow we'll be at such a lower tier bracket on the 12 team that if Clemson has 2 losses or even 1 loss, I don't know, they're not going to match, I don't think, Clemson, Florida State up in the brackets for them to play, unless you're talking about them playing in the national championship, they'll be matched up opposite brackets, so you probably won't see it 3 times. But I guess to your question, it's possible, right? I guess it's possible. Polk at Greg Jones running over Sean Taylor. I do need to put that. I used to have that video. Miami fans think I'm, they think I do too much anyway. So with the Jamie clip, but I used to have that one. I want Lester, JoJo, and Fox in July. I don't think JoJo's announcing in July. I could be wrong, Carrie. I don't think JoJo's announcing in July. Could be wrong. I know the other 2 are. And I think if you want Lester and Fox in July, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I think you will. Shipley's killed us. Shipley has killed us. And outside of Shipley, though, I don't really worry about too much on that team offensively, talking about Clemson. I've been on the record. Shipley's killed us, but what's his name? What's the quarterback's name at Clemson? Klubnik? Yeah, he's going to have to prove it to me. And then some of these wide receivers are going to have to prove it to me, too. I'm doing a master somewhere else for my mind. Tally getting crazy, and I want to leave stupid school. And I want to leave stupid school starting with a F. What do you got in mind, man? Where you want to go? Oh, yeah, fam. Aren't you at fam right now, Terrell? You want to stay in the HBCU? You got an idea what you want to do? It's never a problem with leaving. Sometimes you got to leave a place you're comfortable with to spread your wings. So don't be afraid to leave, Tallahassee or Florida in general. I don't know where I don't know if you're originally from Tallahassee or not, but don't be afraid to leave it, man. The world's too big, believe me. Too many opportunities out there. Don't stay stuck in Tallahassee for sure. Brother Brooklyn, I just saw you, man. Long time. What's going on, man? Appreciate Brother Brooklyn showing up. But I think it looks like we're done. So I think we'll end it on that note, y'all. I appreciate everybody. You said you want to leave the HBCUs, think down Florida, FIU, or crazy. Again, man, don't be scared to leave the state. And I know talking about college is probably cheaper for you to stay in. I get all of that, but just don't be scared to leave the state. A lot of opportunities out there, but also do what you kind of afford and all that things. Not saying money's an issue. I'm just saying their IT master program. Okay, there you go. So follow your dreams, big dog. Absolutely follow your dreams. As always, man. We did a solid 2 hours strong. So great show tonight. Appreciate it again, Norville Central, for coming on here and dropping some good information. I think we had a good solid conversation of recruiting, expectations for next year, and what some of our worries are. But ultimately, I think Florida State fans are in a good space. Do you have the new the white ones, or just the new ones in general? I haven't bought the new ones yet. I need to. But as always, y'all, it's your boy Polk over on 863 Seminole TV. I want you guys to stay classy, stay safe on this Friday night, even though most of y'all probably in for the night. That's why you watching me. And y'all have a good rest of y'all night, man. And I will catch y'all tomorrow night. Probably an earlier time, but same place, man. Talking this Florida State football. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night, man. I'm out here. Go Noles.